Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Driving Talk podcast powered by Icon. And we have a Champions edition this week because Max has brought along High Row Motorsport, which is Max's team. They're star drivers in Maurice Henry and Hadley Simpson, who, of course, are, the Britcar Trophy champions. So not only is he a champion team owner, we're kind of hoping he goes to Silverstone this weekend. No, not Silverstone, Brands Hatch this weekend.
I hope I go to Brands.
Yeah, I hope you go to Brands. If you go to Silverstone, it's really gone wrong. But we're kind of hoping you go to Brands Hatch this weekend and bring home a championship. First of all, I suppose we better introduce Maurice and Hadley. So good evening, guys. Welcome to the Driving Talk podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Max, it's kind of weird this because you're the boss, technically, team boss.
Yeah, it's like I'm sort of dueling up here as almost kind of tending on a guest, but also being part of the podcast. So I think what I should probably do is just explain what's going on and who Maurice and Hadley are to me, because they're very much have been a part of my team this year. So alongside my own racing commitments in the Porsche Sprint Challenge with Graves Motorsport, I also run a team in the Britcar Trophy Championship called High Row Motorsport. And for the last 2 seasons, we've run 2 Renault Clios.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we came only a couple of points shy of winning the overall title. And class title, and then this year we looked to expand to 3 cars, and then settled with 2. And Maurice and Hadley have occupied car 88, which has been very successful. They'll know more about how many wins we've actually had. They can fill you in on that in a bit. But as a team. As Team High Row and Car 88 with Maurice and Hadley, we've won not only the class championship in Britcar Trophy, but also the series
overall,
outright overall. So, and to do so in such a competitive class is incredible. So Maurice, actually both, in a way, both drivers kind of came through the Dragon Sport Scholarship, but kind of both didn't. So, Hadley, I'd already coached for a year before in Fiesta Juniors, and we had a good dialogue and sort of said, you should go and do this scholarship anyway. If you get it, great. If you don't, come with us and we'll go and do Britcar. And Maurice had reached out to ahead of that Dragon Sport scholarship, then said, yeah, you should go and do it, and then was in a way very glad when he didn't, so he could come and join my team. So it was it worked out all right. So so Maurice is also one of the scholarships in the past. He'll tell you about that in a bit. But 2 fantastic drivers, and I'm really glad they've been part of my team this year.
It's been great to see, Max, and obviously it adds on the extra pressure for yourself as well as your own racing exploits, which does include Silverstone, I will admit. You did a bit of that last week, so I did get that. Yeah. I did get that bit right. But it's literally another feather in your cap as, team owner as well as professional racing driver coach. So it's all of the strings in your bow coming together this season. So, I mean, totally. The cars themselves, so are these your ex-Clio Cup cars, or have you bought these in specifically?
Yeah, so 89 was my original car from 2018. That was a brand new car at the start of 2018. I did 18 and 19 championships, finishing second in both, fourth and it was second on the road at the end of the season, and then I can't remember where we ended up in 2018. And 2019 was second in the championship. And then in a way, the ironic thing is 88, which won the championship overall in these 2 hands, was actually Mike Bushell's car back in the day. So his was brand new in 17 for Bushell. That car won the championship in 17 with Bushell, was written off in 18 by Lee Patterson, and then rebuilt. It was effectively a new shell, so it was a good car at the end of the year, and then didn't run in 19. But yeah, these 2 have quite a pedigree in Clio Cup and are ex-Clio Cup race cars that people will have watched on ITV4.
Yeah. Has your old car still got the dents in the side from Jack Young, or has that been sorted out?
Yeah. Have we done that Rivals episode yet?
Not yet.
I feel like that's going to feature in it.
That is definitely going to feature. That was the first one on my list when I put the word out there. I have got some other great rivalries listed down, so I can't wait to film that episode later on this year. But I think it's time actually for Maurice and Hadley to sort of explain themselves, really. So, Maurice, we'll come to yourself first. Where are you from, sir? And tell us a bit about your racing upbringing.
Yeah, so I was originally born in Manchester, then moved to Birmingham for pretty much most of my life. So I've been living there. I started racing when I was 8 in karting, worked my way up, won a couple of championships in karting, was vice champion in a national championship. And then when I was 13, I moved out of cadets, and then we wanted to move into cars. So we thought cars was like, obviously that's where your career is. So for us who didn't have a lot of money, the quicker we could get us into cars, the better the opportunity further down the line hopefully would occur for myself. And because of that, we wanted to enter the Genetic Junior Scholarship. But I was I had to turn 14, but I was 14 a month too late. So we went and did a year and a half of junior rally because you're not allowed to do any circuit racing. So I did that. I think I did it joined half a year through, did really well, then came back in 2020 and we won the first round, and then COVID struck, so I didn't get to do any more driving of that. So I guess I might have been the champion, I might have not been, but we only did one round. And then I entered the Junior Scholarship, could put all my eggs in one basket because I thought that was the best junior championship of at that time. And yeah, I managed to win it, and I met Max there on the day. He was one of the judges there as well. From there, that took off my career. You know, I did another year in Genetic Juniors, winning the race, pole position, and then went from being off the back of that to British Touring Car Development Driver for Team R, did some stuff in BEC, and then met Max. And then
can I just interject there? There's a few bits that you've like massively glossed over within your racing career. So you go, I won a couple of karting championships. So in the same breath, Maurice, I won one karting championship, which is Northern Karting Federation Championship in like 2098.
That's why I got vice champion.
So like way back, okay. So I want to know what championships you won. And also, just go with that first. So which championships did you win in karting?
So I won the South Yorkshire Championship. That's down in Barnsley, Wanwell. I won that in my first year of running. I won that in my first year of roller karting. And then we progressed into then going like more down south where the more competition was. And I managed to win the Shenington Club Karting Championship in 2016. And with not doing the first round and last round as well. So it was really good. And then the year after, I then came vice champion in the Northern Karting Federation Championship. And then in my very last year, I did the British Championship, but we had a lot of bad luck. So it didn't really go our way. Yeah. And then that's when we decided that, it was the time to make the step out of karting into cars.
It's a story that really resonates with me because that was pretty much my experience too. Did well at club level karting, tried to go into the national stuff, tried to go down south where there's more competition, and unfortunately just got knocked off all the time, got frustrated with it, and that's why I wanted to go to cars. So, it's textbook stuff for us as Northern lads. So 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 Wanwell was a place that I raced at as well. Did you ever race there as well, Hadley?
Yeah, I raced there, yeah.
So who's been the cock of the north?
I lost it on the last lap.
Oh.
I got hit off.
Did you?
Yeah.
There was always some guys there in like, were they BRM? And they were like the Wanwell specialists.
Mark Baines.
Yeah, MBM.
Yeah. And I was up against them, and I was like at the end of my mini max days, and I was so heavy for a mini max, like 4 kilos overweight or whatever, like we all are when we get to that age. And I was just like white lining it everywhere. They were so fast in a straight line, but I could just manage to park it and ping them off when we got to the corners. So still won Cock of the North once. So did you ever do that, Hadley?
I did race at Onewell, but I never did the Cock of the North.
No. Fair enough. It's always a really cool meeting. So
what a name for a championship as well.
Yeah, it's a one-off. It's a one-off event. Is Cock of the North, but it usually ended up being the last round of the Northern Karting Federation. It was in my day. So
I guess I should break down the rest of the stuff as well. Like I went over it quite quick. So obviously, then I made the step into Junior Rally, which is like the Junior 1000 Rally Championship, which is basically like the place where you can learn the foundation for many drivers that have gone up into being like now in some in like the World Rally Championship. That have all started there. So there was a lot of really good competition in that championship. I remember when I first started, it was like it was a big shock to me in terms of like, learning car control, weight transfer, having, the ability to listen to pace notes and take a corner that you can't see, effectively, and trust in the pace notes and the person next to you. So it really did teach me a lot in terms of like surface changes and different things like that at like the age of 14 and 15 years old. So, that was one thing that, built me really well. And despite, obviously, it was a shame because we came to the first round then the next year and we actually won it, which was like a big shock. And we was like, we was feeling really comfortable, but then the COVID came. So the one sport that couldn't carry on was rallying because there was two of us in the car. So that was a shame. But they still give me a lot of recognition. They even congratulated me the other day on winning my championship, which is really nice of them. And so then I decided, literally, we put all our eggs in one basket. We didn't really we didn't have the money to go and do Ginetta Juniors, and we didn't really want to do like a championship that maybe you could scrape together to get the money. We wanted to do the one that we thought was the biggest at the time, and I didn't do any preparation in car. I just did 2 days at sim track. So like that's like 2 hour sessions. And then I did a little bit of media training with Louise Goodman and then just threw myself straight into the scholarship. So I thought if I could adapt to the car quickly on the day, it would give me more of something for the judges to say rather than you've already done a couple of test days. So I think that might have helped me in all fairness. And then from there, that's where, it benefited me a lot. We won that, which I was quite very grateful to win that because that was the year that Lawrence gave us 2 scholarships. So it was me and Robert DeHaan. And then, that was like one of the best things of my career, to be fair. That's what helped us get on the map. And from there, I worked hard, used the platform there to then have sponsors that have now stayed with me for 3 years now, 3-4 years, yeah. So, and it was really good also to get recognised by Team Hard to even be driving like touring cars, and even though it was in BEC. I think I drove about 3 different touring cars, and that allowed me to get used to like, faster cars. So, when we came to doing the stuff with Max and Cleo, it's like you've driven a lot of cars, and it was nice to be able to drive with Max and get used to another car. And I think like we've just been such a good, strong team all year, and we can't really fault ourselves, really.
Just quickly, going back to the Formula 1000 stuff, I mean, it's a great formula for rallying. I love it because it's anything from sort of Citroen C1s to a VW up, isn't it?
100%.
So the skills you talk about, weight transfer, different grip levels and stuff like that, is this a skill set that you still take into circuit racing now?
Yes, 100%. That's what really grounded me as the driver that I am now, in terms of just being able to understand the car, understand what a car is doing with little time, because you can't test, obviously, at stage. You come in, you're on different surfaces, and you really have one shot from the start to the finish to give it your best shot and understand the car. If you throw it off, you throw it off. That's, stage over. So realistically, it did like teach me a lot at such a young age to be able to take up that pressure to do stages, finish 7 stages, start to finish, to learn the car, learn the physiques, because from karting, there's no suspension. So when you get into a car, it's about learning that weight transfer, learning how much brake pressure you can apply, understanding when the car's braking away from you, and doing all of that whilst technically not knowing where you're going. So I really do think that that's what grounded me well as a driver, then to be able to jump into the Ginetta Junior and just feel what's going on underneath me and then progress throughout the day.
I think that's been one of Maurice's real strong points this year is his ability to just get in and go. He's been super strong at just being able to, pull a lap out straight away. And when you listen to what he's done in the past, it's very easy to see where that comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's such a different thing to have gone and done in comparison to so many other drivers. I think
it's so unique.
Yeah. When Maurice did the Ginetta Junior Scholarship, it was like, he's the rally boy. Do you know what I mean? He stood out because of his experience, where you get so many people from karting or have done test days or whatever. Maurice stood out as having done something different. And it's always interesting, these scholarships, to work out, where do these different grounding things get you to, and which is the best. And, ultimately Maurice pulled through on the day. And I don't think that's just, testament to sort of Maurice's background in the championships that he'd done. I think it's also a large amount down to himself and Cecil as his dad in terms of how they commercially go about their racing. So, that day of the Ginetta Junior Scholarship when Lawrence announced too was one of the most. It was probably the most incredible day I've ever experienced as a scholarship person. And I've done quite a few now. So Lawrence owns Ginetta. Lawrence Tomlinson is Ginetta basically, and it's his scholarship. So we're his little minions on the day. We run the scholarship. We passenger seat and give all the information that we need, whittle down to usually sort of 4 or 6 drivers that do a head-to-head shootout at the end. And Lawrence kind of comes in for either the last day or the last afternoon just to kind of cast his eye over, everybody's kind of picked the best guys, and then he'll go, what do I think of these best 4 or 6? What's my opinion? And ordinarily there's somebody chucks it off and somebody wasn't quite as quick, and then you kind of go, okay, right, we've kind of got 3 or 4, who do we pick? And I'll never forget how this happened. And I was looking at Maurice and Cecil when they called out what happened. So basically, Lawrence came into the room with all the judges, and he went, right, Rob de Haan is absolutely rapid. He's the best driver here, and we can't not give him the scholarship because he's been amazing and he absolutely deserves it.
Yeah.
So Rob de Haan's the scholar. But I have the power and the ability to be able to cast 2 scholarships. And I'd like to give one to Maurice as well, because you can see that Robert's here, but he's obviously done a lot. Maurice has done relatively minimal, and his progression is going that way. So for sure, he's not where Rob de Haan is now, but what he's shown over the last couple of days shows that he could be. And I want to see where that goes. And I think the other thing that really stood out for Lawrence is that Maurice, in all the years that have done Ginetta Junior Scholarship, was the only person that's ever messaged Lawrence direct himself. And I think that had really put Maurice on Lawrence's radar. And was a big tick in the box as to part of the reason that he got the scholarship.
What did just on that? What did you say to him, Maurice?
Right now, I think it was more of just the fact of just saying, that I'm really looking forward to doing the scholarship, and I think it's a great opportunity for drivers to do it, and I think you've done a great thing. I'm looking forward to do it, something along those lines, something like that. But it was just basically like giving recognition that I think it's a good thing that he's doing. So. See,
I like that. That's being humble. It's giving thanks and being humble to fantastic qualities, Maurice. So fantastic. So, but that must have been
incredible.
Pretty incredible to sort of be a part of, Max. And I suppose yourself and the judges kind of stood back a bit. It was a bit of a momentous occasion. I remember it even made Autosport.
Yeah, we were all just about crying. So we were all like, they called Robert de Haan out, and it was like, yeah, I've won. And he was obviously really excited and stuff, but we were all like, we know there's something else coming. So we were all like, right, I've decided we're going to offer out 2 scholarships. And you could see all the like parents and kids going like,
what
the hell's that? we weren't expecting this. And like usually when you go for a scholarship, and I've got to say, this is probably where Dragon Sport Scholarship is actually very similar, is that it's run by somebody who can decide to go away from what they've actually put out.
Yeah.
And if they want to offer more than what they've put on the table, then they can and do. And that was exactly the case with Lawrence that day. You know, he just went, right, okay, I'm going to give out another 60 grand and Maurice is going to have it. And it was like, wow, that's so
that
cool.
was the special moment because, as you said, we didn't expect it. And it called out. Just looked at my dad and we just...
Yeah. Well, I remember you started crying. You started hugging your dad. He started crying. We all started crying. And we're like, "Oh my God, what's going on? This is mental." So it was great. And then I think, like, you know, when you follow on from that, you know, you've gone in and done Ginetta Junior Championship, which for me is, you know, I work in Fiesta Junior Championship, and that's where I met Hadley. But for me, the best junior championship is the Ginetta Junior Championship. It was where I learnt my craft, and you've seen so many other people go on and be successful within it. You know, so my best result in that was a third, and I've gone on to achieve many awesome things within my racing career. But Maurice won a Ginetta Junior race, and you sort of glance over, yeah, I won a Ginetta Junior race, but like, that's awesome. Like, that is such a cool thing to have on your CV. So where was that and what happened, Maurice?
Yeah, so it was at Knockhill. I remember. It's obviously easy for drivers to say and stuff, but in my first year, we had a bit of underlying issues that we didn't even know about, that I would have thought I would say that I knew, but we couldn't pinpoint what it was. And it was just basically our engine was just a lack of power. It obviously eventually, like tracks like Thruxton, we say we'll wait to see if it gets there. It would get to obviously the same top speed as everyone eventually, but it was the rate of pickup. And we found what it was. We diagnosed it and came back the next year, and you know, it was good. It was nothing ridiculous, like we had a ridiculous motor, but it was better. In terms of me as well, I was driving better because I knew that I wasn't trying too hard. You know, I was able to focus more on my technique. We did a lot of work. We managed to raise a bit more money in sponsorship, which allowed me to do a little bit more testing. When I say a little bit more, we managed to get around each track twice. So that was like a big improvement for us. And then from there, we just started progressing throughout the year, and we got to Knockhill. And I feel like I like technical tracks, me. So I don't really Thruxton and Silverstone. Not really. They're amazing tracks, but I feel like I shine more at like the technical tracks where there's a lot of corners, and it's less of a power track, Knockhill. So it's more just focus on driving ability and if you want to say, confidence as well.
I'm wondering if a bit of the rally stuff came in especially at Knockhill as well, chucking a car around there.
Perhaps it did, and we was just fast. I think we qualified third. I had a little bit of traffic on my lap, so the potential to get pole was there. I started, I got up into second, then got up into the lead, and from there just drove away. And then I actually made my life a little bit easier with 2 laps to go. It then became a red flag, and I'd won that race. I think I was already had it was nearly a 2-second lead anyway. It wasn't being caught, and it got to the point where certain people were saying, well, where's this come from? You know, check his car, check everything, appeal this and appeal that. We was in there for ages. And when everything came back clear, I think the people actually came over to me, and once they had, you know, we got the SD cards back, and they said, fair play, Maurice is actually driving really well. And that was nice. It was a really good weekend. It didn't end, the other 2 races didn't end as well, just due to a bit of bad luck. I did. You know, the chicane at Knockhill?
Yeah.
Obviously, touring cars, they're flat bedded, so like none of the chassis is exposed. With the Ginetta, it's not flat bedded, it's all the chassis exposed, all the lines and everything. And just unlucky, just caught a curve and it grounded out, spat me out. And then someone came and ripped the front end off my car. But from last place, from 24th, it started. We came back up to about, I think it was 7th. So it was a good drive. It was a good weekend. But to come away and win that, and then it was a special thing, especially, I would say, not being in probably one of the biggest teams and with one of the biggest budgets as well was definitely made it a bit more special. And a testament, because everyone knows what everyone does, in terms of input and testing and stuff. So it was really nice. And it also was nice, obviously, the weekend after was Snetterton, and we managed to get, I think we qualified, I think it was third again. And then we got reverse pole, not reverse pole, sorry. So your second fastest lap is what puts you in the grid for race 2, and I got pole position on that. And again, I just got a bit unlucky. I had a puncture in race 1, which meant I didn't have the chance to win that. I think I was in second when that happened. And when you put a new tyre on, you've got to put it in the place where the puncture was, and it was on the front left. And with Ginetta Juniors, because they're treaded tyres, the more they wear out, the better they are. So I had really worn out nice tyres, and then one tyre that's basically the most used tyre on the track, and that just killed me for the rest of the weekend. But no, I really enjoyed my Ginetta Junior days. I wouldn't change it for anything. If anything, I'd love to go back, in all honesty. I think it's what grounded me more as a driver in terms of circuit racing, in terms of like the ups and downs and the highs and lows in that championship really do build you as a driver, because it's so tough, the competition there. Now heading into anything, I don't really have any fear. I don't have any worries, because I feel like I've been through all of it already and I know how to overcome it. Because at times it got really tough, where it's like we were struggling for money and struggling to finish, so much damage, so much crashing, so much getting hit off, where you're like, is there any even point in carrying on? But we kept our head and we found a way through it. And credit to my dad, he sacrificed so much for us to finish that year, selling cars, taking a loan and stuff like that. So it was good. And off the back of that, we got the recognition that I needed to, propel ourselves and continue racing another 2 years after,
Outstanding.
Maurice, who finished second and third in the race that you won?
Josh Rowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's always cool to just sort of see who's around.
Yeah.
So
He won the
Josh now,
championship.
who? Josh.
Yeah, he won the championship. Yeah, so.
But he's now racing GT3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sonny Smith, Sid Smith.
Sonny Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. He's now raced in Carrera Cup and been running right at the front. So just puts you into perspective as the kind of people that were involved in it at that time. So hey, incredible, and well done for getting through to where we started, and we'll go over this year in a little bit more detail in a minute. So I think we should find out about Hadley.
Yeah, Hadley, over to you, sir. So obviously we've and thank you, Maurice. You've waited very patiently, Hadley. Where are you from? Where did it all start for you?
So I'm very proud to be from Sheffield, and I started at 6 years old. I started at Onewell, same as these guys, and I just tried to get out on track as much as we could. I remember we had a mattress in the back of a van, and we'd just sit there, even when it was freezing cold, raining, snowing, sit in the van, warm our hands up for a bit, and then drive back out on track. So it was a real dedication. Me, my dad, my granddad. It would just be us on the car. My dad never mechanic before. My granddad knew nothing about it, and we all put in a big effort to come together. So it wasn't only the racing which I enjoyed. It was the off track. It was sharing a mattress in the back of a van, 3 of us together. It's like those are the type of memories that also stay with you, not just your racing results. So I remember that year. I think I finished about 3 races because we just broke down all the time. But we was just having so much fun, and definitely miss those days for sure. So I did. I went away for a couple of years. I got really ill, so I had to come away from racing for 4 years. I came back and then did the Daniel Ricciardo series, which Daniel Ricciardo himself put on to promote some youngsters. Again, that was Dad and Lad. Broke down more times than I finished the race in that as well. So that was the time I sacked my dad as a mechanic. Moved into a team. So first time I moved into a local team, just doing the local championships, so like Fullbeck, PFI, Onewell, all that, just up in the Midlands really. So I think I finished 3rd in the Winter Cup at Paul Fletcher International. A couple of wins at Fullbeck and Onewell as well. And then I just found myself at a bit of a block. I think I had 25 kilos of lead on, and I was breaking chassis because I was so light. there's so much lead on the car, it would crack straight through the middle. So we were kind of stuck. That was due to my illness. So we moved into Mini X30 and moved to a different team and tried different leads and all this to just try and get around that problem. Because as you know, when it rains, the less weight you have on the kart, the better it is, as you can chuck it around more as a driver. So as soon as it rains, I was just like a little concrete slab going around the track. But as I got a bit older, I got a bit bigger, put on some more pounds. We moved into Junior X30, and that's when I changed team as well into Birrell Art, and they did absolute wonders for me. Brought me on so much as a driver, and that's when I really started winning. I did national level, did the English Championship, came 5th in that. We were leading the Shenington Championship like Maurice, and in the last round I cracked my skull just as I really saw myself. I really saw myself improving as a driver. Just when you start to think you're really on it here, leading the championship and in the final, and someone pushed me off and cracked my skull. So that was me out, and that was my mum saying no more karting, getting a bit too injured. And we moved into Fiesta Junior, and that's when I met Max. Again, I didn't do any pre-season testing due to the injury. I think I got out in the car. I got my license back like 4 days before the first round, just because obviously health and safety issues, which is number one priority. And went out in the first round, and by round 2, I was back on the podium. So, I mean, that was a lot down to Max. The coaching that he gave me in such a short period, he really brought me on as a driver, and that's when we put a lot of trust in him. So when luck didn't go quite our way in Fiesta Juniors, I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Max?
Yeah, 100%.
Just
I definitely think there was a fair bit of bumping and barging along the way, and sometimes people got involved in it and they probably could have avoided it. And most of the time, there wasn't really a lot Hadley could have done there. It was just a crash ahead of him, and he didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
We built up the podiums, but it ended up just costing too much in damage with just all like nothing malicious, just silly accidents with other people, sometimes involving me, sometimes not involving me, just wrong place, wrong time. So we made the decision financially to come out of Fiesta Juniors, and that's when Max was like, "Well, look, we've got a Clio car. Why don't you come do this with me?" And I let him know my plans for the future, and it lined up perfectly with a development year with Max. And I think this year, when I've had the car underneath me and I've got the team behind me, I think it's fair to say I really showed what I can do as a driver, and it's been probably my first year in a spotlight. I'm a lot less experienced than Maurice, and I think this year I've really proved to myself, to a lot of people who thought maybe he's not good enough. But I think this year I've been able to prove myself that I've got the speed and the maturity to do some great things, hopefully.
To be fair, you're sat as a champion, so I think that kind of says it all, Hadley.
So, Hads, when you were doing the early days of the karting stuff with your dad, so was that dad and granddad Jim?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and neither of them had done any mechanicking before.
No, never seen an engine, never seen a carburetor, anything like that.
Right. And so they. So where was the kart then? Was that at your house, and then did you get involved in the mechanical side of it?
It was in our garage, and me and my dad would go in at night and try figure out what was going on.
Do.
Yeah, why we broke down in the last 4 rounds, and we'd both just be sat there scratching our heads. And every time you went to someone in the paddock, they go, "Oh yeah, we've got it on this," and then we'd go out and do this, and then we'd break down. So then you'd go to someone else and ask the same thing. We didn't know who to trust, to be honest.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I was ever so lucky that my dad was my mechanic and he is a mechanic. So it was very useful on that front. So I learned an incredible amount from him. And I think, that stood me in really good stead now, in that I can actually do the role that we've had this year. I think had I not had that mechanical grounding, I couldn't be a team manager because I just wouldn't have the mechanical appreciation or understanding that I do. The other thing I was going to ask about your career, so you said there you'd sort of done some racing at PF, and did you say you had third there in a championship or
Yeah.
I mean, like, for those that don't know, that have only seen cars or don't necessarily know karting so well, finishing third in a PF championship is pretty much like winning or being third in a national championship. Anybody who's anybody goes to PF. So if you're finishing right up at the front of that, that's basically like saying I was third in the UK. It's like near enough that, so that's a very, very high standard of club karting. Club championship at PF International is more like a national championship level, rather than sort of being a club level. So it's just to put it into perspective, because people watching don't necessarily understand the level that some of these things are at. So fair play, mate.
Yeah, we've learned something new today. So to then jump into this year behind the wheel of the Gen 4 Clio, the target from the outset, was it always you got your heads together and it was like, right, guys, we're going to win this championship?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I said to Max at the start of the year, I said, like, we've got to win this. I really had something to prove. I had not just a couple grits in between my teeth. I said, I need to win this championship.
Yeah, I think I was on the same wave as well, because, after having so many years of what ifs, like Janetta Juniors having like 5 DNFs, and when a win's like 30 points, you're basically out of the win of the championship. And BEC was just not in the right competitive car for an endurance championship. It was like, we need to win this. We both felt like we had a lot to prove. So yeah,
I feel like we were probably in the same boat as the team. So we'd just finished second the year before. I remember Hadley came to watch. I was actually driving at Donington Park when we finished the season the year before, and us and Dragon Sport were like neck and neck on points. So it was basically who wins. And we just had a nightmare of a day mechanically. The throttle broke basically in every race, and we didn't win the championship, and it was gutting. And like we felt that as a team big time. And that was a really, really difficult bit. So we were on a bounce back from having lost the championship and really wanted to win it as well. So the early days of these two coming together seem like a very distant memory now, but it actually, in a way, it all started because the kind of car that I'd had, 89, was kind of already sealed from the year before. Ben Jenkins and James Harrison were going to drive that and continue. And we then had Andy Tucker, who'd raced in Britcar with us the year before. He was very close to winning the championship alongside myself and Ollie Meadows. And then the idea was to try and find a teammate for Andy. And it then came into a situation. It seems like so distant memory now, doesn't it, lads? But like the start of this season was a bit of a crazy sort of 3 or 4 weeks, where we finished the Dragon Sport Scholarship, and I'd been trying to find one driver to go with Andy, and came out with 3, and suddenly went from we're going to try and run 3 cars rather than 2 cars, and so on and so forth. And it was all quite difficult, really. But in the end of it, Andy did a really nice thing and stepped aside for both Maurice and Hadley to have their day and go together. And what he recognised as a slightly older driver, he's not old guys, the mid-30s is Andy. He recognised that both Hadley and Maurice going together would be a great thing for 2 young drivers and help them to develop. And him stepping aside from the second car when we were really we didn't really know how to play it, to be honest. Andy let these 2 go together, and it's worked a treat. He said, go and win the championship. That's exactly what they've done, and I hope that doing so this year in Britcar's really elevated these 2 lads' careers into whatever step comes next for them. So that was kind of the beginning. And where did we go first? We're
Donington
and then Snetterton, wasn't it? So first round, I'll let you lads sort of talk through a bit of what happened there, because I can't remember.
We got a second and a first, didn't we?
Yeah. Did we get? Was there a safety pit lane infringement for Dragon in the second race?
And they didn't serve it or something till the last lap.
So we were right on the back of them in the first race where we finished second, and it was sort of like a right. So at the start of the season, we were, I guess, paired up with the number one car as being two cars that could win the Clio Championship. So you had Maurice and Hadley in my 88 car, and you had Reese, defending champion, in the number one car alongside his new scholarship winner, Harry Reynolds. So Harry and Maurice had sort of raced against each other in Ginetta Juniors, I think.
So I beat
certainly both done those championships. Yeah. So they'd been sort of racing around the same paddocks and races for a long time. And then Hadley was thrown into that mix, I guess, alongside Reese, but, really alongside Harry and Maurice. And at the start of the season, it was about Hadley trying to match Reese and Maurice trying to match Harry. And what actually happened is Maurice and Harry were very evenly matched, I would have said. I think Maurice was out and out a little bit quicker. For me, a little bit more sensible and creative with his driving technique and racecraft. And that was a really big strong point for us. And where I think Hadley kind of had that bit of very new to it, he sort of got on a level, I would say, with Reese at the first round. And then at the second round, I remember I was going away on holiday and mapped out all those lap times. And actually, on an average pace, Hadley was faster than Harry at the second round of the championship. And that form sort of stood true then through the rest of the year, that, Maurice was a really fast guy and the guy to beat. And Hadley just improved so much that he was as fast as everybody else, and at times was matching Maurice. So yeah, just let you two sort of take us through your thoughts of this season.
Yeah, so for sure, at the start of the year, I lacked a lot of confidence. I was off the back of that tough year in Fiesta Juniors, and I was just looking for something to really get me back up on, driving confident, because that's, at the end of the day, where every driver is fastest and comfortable, when you've got faith in yourself and the car and the team. And at the start of the year, I didn't have that previously, and coming in with Max and Maurice, I think I just found my groove. I just said to myself that I can actually do something, and I can do it well. And so we did really well. First round, we were, I think we came out tied on points with Reese and Harry coming out of the first round. We had the pace on them. I don't think it went quite our way in the first race, but for sure you could tell we were going to be really competitive. And then at the second round, we just, something clicked. We all put our heads together and we were just absolutely flying. We did the clean sweep, first pole, fastest laps and everything. It was just I don't think some people could believe what was going on, because Clios are so close together. And for some reason, Hyro in particular just got the car dialed in. Me and Maurice did the easy bit of driving around, and just the car was absolutely.
I'm not sure your bit was the easy bit. You guys had a pretty hard job to do, to be fair.
From there, yeah, we just kept our heads, because obviously nothing's ever sealed. We just both kept motivating each other. We both kept pushing each other. So Maurice would be quicker one corner, then I'd be quicker one corner, and then Maurice would be quicker the next two corners. And we'd just find ourselves pushing each other along and really helping each other. And I think that's something, because I've never driven with a partner before, and that's something you have to take into factor, where you can't be selfish in your sport anymore. And you've got to think about your teammate and how you can help each other. And obviously you're always helping your team, but helping someone else seems wrong at first. But by the end of the first round, we were just interlinked. We just found our groove is really good.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, Maurice, can you just explain a little bit there on, one, how close Clio class is, and two, how the second race pit stop penalty works? Because it's all well and good saying we did the double, we won both races, but people won't understand quite how hard a job that is actually to do in the second race.
Yeah, 100%. So for me and Hadley in our second round of the championship, when we're both still quite fresh to the format, cars and the people around us, to win 2 races in Britcar is like a really, really big achievement, especially with the Clio class being so close. I think when I was out there, when Hadley's out there, it's really, really tight. It was like, I think it was like 4 of us, 5 of us going for the win. It was a proper, it's like 2 sprint races, if you want to put it that way. And if you win the first race, you get a 15-second success penalty for race 2, which you are to serve in the pit stop. So, you know, when we're talking about racing terms, half a second is a lot. So you can imagine what 15 seconds is when you are
15 seconds is, at least a couple of corners.
It's huge.
Exactly.
It's massive.
Exactly. Yeah. So to have to wait that
to
much,
pull that back is impressive.
Exactly. So it's like for us to be able to do that was a really big achievement and a big talking point as well, and gave me and Hadley a lot of confidence to continue throughout the season. And it just goes to show that, you know, as Hadley was saying, that we worked really well together. It was more of a fact of that we are working together to improve each other, to, as a team, come out with the best result possible. And I think that's what made us stand out from, I'd say, the rest within the championship. Like, a lot of people wouldn't know looking in, because obviously you're all in your own little bubble. But, you know, Hadley would be very data focused. So would I. You know, we'd always be looking for where we can improve, what time is lost, how am I doing this corner, how is Hadley doing this corner. And obviously Max was the kingpin, obviously, to help pick those things out. And for then, we were able to just become such a strong pair where we was consistently on the podium. I think we was only not on the podium once or twice this year. So that was
at what point? At what point during the year did you sort of say to yourselves, you know, you obviously set yourself the target of doing it, but at one point did you think to yourselves, yeah, we're doing this, and if we keep doing this, we're going to win it and win it overall? When did it kind of sink in?
I think for me, I'm not sure about Hadley, but for me, the minute we won a race, the minute it proved us that we can win races, I think. And then obviously when you did the double then at Snap, then definitely sunk into my mind that, yes, we are capable of winning races. It's not a fluke, if that makes sense, or, you know, a lucky race where you're in the right place, right time. We went out there, you know, I got pole, we won, and like it was a clean sweep, you know. And from then on, it was like, right, we have a good championship lead. We deserve to be in the championship lead. And there's no reason why we can't continue this momentum on, because you've already had now 2 races where you know your opposition, you know your opponents, and we've been able to shine it twice in a row, you know. And
just to add to that, I think one thing that me and Maurice did really well was like kept mature. I think a lot of drivers our age would let their ego get over their head, and I think we kept ourselves on the ground. We were like, look, let's not only do it, but let's do it really well and really humbly, and like really try show ourselves off to potential teams or manufacturers or whoever was watching us. We really wanted to show ourselves off and be as professional as possible. So not only did we, you know, have the faith that we were going to win it, but we were going to make sure that we did it in a really good light and a really good image for ourselves.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
Absolutely. So the year goes on, you're picking up all of these results and just keep topping up that points table. And then it comes to sort of the final races. The reason I'm sort of moving forward a bit like this, gents, I kind of want to tie this in with the Driven Minds Minute and with what a certain other person on this podcast has got to try and do this weekend.
All three is having a go at this one, are we?
Well, it's going to be so. As we know, the Driven Minds Minute is a focus on Driven Minds' way of looking at mental health, particularly in motorsport, and doing lots of great things for the motorsport community. And we do a minute's response on questions about mindset in motorsport. So, Maurice, Hadley, you've won the championship, and Max, you have been at this point so many times, and you're going to the finale at Brands this weekend. So it's on about mindset. So the question is, on the weeks leading up to it, that heading towards that final round, does your mindset change? What do you do? Do you do anything differently? Does it all stay the same? Up to you guys, who wants to speak first and talk about it. But that's what I want to put to you as a Driven Minds Minute this week.
I don't mind going. For me personally, when you
well volunteered.
For me personally, when you're leading up to the race where you know you're in a good position to, win the championship, naturally it'll rest on your mind. Like hoping that everything goes your way. I think the best thing I'd like to do is I just like to work quite hard leading up to that week, in terms of whether that's looking over past data. Because we'd already been to that track once, so we did Snetterton twice. So we're looking over past data, doing some training, and then the rest of the week just relaxing. Really, I don't like to train up until a race weekend, but train and then just relax, get myself make sure you're just well rested, hydrated. Just put yourself in the best position that you can, because you never know what's going to happen on track, and the only variable you have to control is yourself. As long as you're in the best position to race, I think that's the only thing you can do until then you get into the car and then, adapt to what's going around you and try and race your best, really.
Hadley?
Yeah, so as some people may know, I've got GT Cup this weekend, so that's the first for me. It's GT, it's rear-wheel drive, all of this, and you definitely feel the pressure, but as you start to build a name for yourself, you realise where you are in why you are in that position, and that you have done these amazing things to get there. So I just like to remind myself of what I'm here to do to begin with, which is enjoying a sport that I love, and if I can make a career out of it, then that's even better. But just reminding myself why I'm there. I'm not there to be upset or to put a downer on the mood of me, my family, my team. I really want to be there because I just enjoy racing. It's what I want to do, and I like to keep my feet planted on that. That's why I'm there, not to put too much pressure on myself.
So, Max, this week leading up to it, has anything changed for you? Are you thinking about things a bit differently, or is it the same mindset you've had all week, all year going into this week?
Yeah. I think it's been quite good for me that I've only had 2 weeks in between the last two races. So relatively, I've not had a lot of time to build into it. Maurice and Hadley had a lot of time before their last round. So that's probably all the more difficult. For me, I felt really nervous before Silverstone. And I think that's really because every time I've gone to Silverstone and been in the championship hunt, it's gone drastically wrong for me at that event. And that's often been the Achilles heel in my championship campaign. So I was really nervous going into Silverstone, and actually I'm far less nervous now going into Brands this weekend. I think the points margin that I have this weekend makes it feel a little bit more comfortable, and that'll have been the same with the other two lads. But actually, for me, I've had a ridiculously busy week last week. This week has been as chilled out as possible. So I basically said, right, I had a busy week last week. This week is chill mode and get myself ready for Brands. So I haven't got any scheduled work or anywhere that I have to be any time this week. This is the most scheduled thing I've had this week. So I've not set an alarm in the morning. I've got up when I've got up, so my body's as rested as possible. I've had early nights. I'm trying to watch a few bits of race footage back from earlier in the year and last year at Brands, so taking a bit of what Maurice said. And actually, when Hadley's just been saying about reminding himself of why he's in that position, I was looking at my trophies from this year because I've got them all sat in the living room. just looking at what a fantastic year it's been. And I think it's so easy to create a negative mindset in your head when you're going into something that's such a high pressure situation. But actually, as Hadley said, what you've got to actually do is just go, no, the reason I'm leading the championship is because I've done really well. And all I need to keep doing is what I've already done. So for me, one of the best bits of advice I ever got given in going for a championship was, don't worry about it until you can actually physically win it. So I can't win it in the first race at Brands Hatch, so I'm not thinking about it. I'm just thinking about going fast at Brands and loving it and enjoying Brands because it's my favourite track on the calendar. So that's my mindset going into this weekend.
Fantastic, thank you. 3 people doing the Driven Minds minute, which was a little bit longer than a minute, as with the others. So we're going to call it the Driven Minds moment from now on, I think. But
sorry,
but thank you, God. No. But it's great insight, Max. But coming away from that, there's actually something that you said to me last year at the final round. You dropped me back at the gate on the Graves kart. And we had a bit of a chat about your racing and stuff like that. And you were very philosophical. And one of the things that you said, Hadley, actually sat with you, Max, in the fact that you said to me, you said for the first time in ages, you just enjoyed being in a race car at Brands Hatch. And you almost said to yourself, I may not be doing this for much longer.
Yeah.
So you had to enjoy.
Yeah, I had quite a moment last year. I think it makes me a little bit emotional thinking about it, to be fair, because I genuinely, it was tough. Last season, it was hard to finish it. And, like many others in racing, sometimes you're sort of still trying to work things out from the year before well into the next. And by that, I mean financially. Anybody watching who's a racing driver will probably understand if they've not necessarily got the budget to do everything. And I hit last year and just thought, I did a live thing, and I was like, I just burst out in tears. I was like, I bloody love this, and I just don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do it again. And it was. I'm so glad that I have, because I absolutely loved this year again. Not just my own racing in the Porsche. I think Maurice, Hadley, James, Ben and Thomas in my high road team, and everybody who we've gelled with there as well. It has just been such a fantastic year. So I've massively enjoyed 2024 season. Whether I've had my race hat on myself, whether I've had the earphones on talking to these guys, or coaching the rest of the Fiesta Junior team at 2010, and now sort of into coaching Nicky Taylor in the Clios with Graves. So yeah, you just gotta remember to enjoy it, because it's so easy to get focused on, I want to make a career, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, and this has got to happen because I've got to pay this or whatever. And what we do is so bloody cool that you've got to just take a minute to go, yeah, this is mint. I race a car. It's cool. Like, just enjoy it, So yeah, it's been
absolutely. Yeah, no, so back to Britcar. Go on.
No, I was going to say I was back.
Go on. Sorry, Maurice, you carry on. I had a bit of a delay.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I was just going to say that what Max had said is like 100% true. Like, every time you come to an end of the year, with me as well, like, you enjoyed that year so much, and then you get to the end and you're like, it becomes a reality of like, this is your last race. You don't know if you're going to race again. You don't know if the people that you're working with, anything can happen in the climate. It's not maybe because that they don't want to be your partner and say sponsors. It's just so many variables, And yeah, I can understand what Max is saying as well, especially after he's had such a successful year. Even my year this year as well, having such a successful year this year. Now that year's done and dusted, I'm focusing hard now, trying to make some other things happen, And it's like, you don't know if those things will happen because, well, I rely on sponsorship. So same as well. Max makes his does his racing as well, and Hadley. So it's like, you always cherish that like last race, the last moment together. We had a good time as a team as well after that race as well. I think it's a special thing that, like Max said, yeah,
100%. So we've got to kind of come onto the curtails of last season and how it finished, and then we can look at what you guys have got in your bright futures ahead of you. So last So last 2 rounds. So in a little bit of a weird way, we had like 2 last rounds almost, because the penultimate round. Where were we there? Donington.
Yeah.
So Donington, we won Clio class, and then Snetterton, we won championship overall. So in a way, for us, we actually had 2 last rounds of the season in a weird way. So Donington round, I'd done the calculations and knew that the lads could win Clio class there, but I purposefully didn't tell them. Who drove the first stint in the last race? That was you, Hadley, wasn't it? Yeah, at Donington. Yeah.
No, because I qualified.
Yeah, you qualified, and then yeah. So Maurice got out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Maurice got out first in the second race, and I remember saying to him then, by the way, if you win this, you've won the Clio class. So I didn't want to tell them beforehand, because what I didn't want to happen was, I kind of knew we had the Clio class sort of wrapped up, even if we didn't do it at Donington, but I didn't want us to lose a point in the overall championship, because I knew we didn't have a point to be able to lose. And actually, that was 100% true in the end of it, because we drew on points. So, we couldn't afford to lose a point, and I didn't want the lads to take focus off just achieving what they could, because we had to score every point possible for the overall title. So, so Maurice finished actually both races.
We won both.
Yeah,
so
did the double at Donington as well again.
Yeah, double and fastest lap in both, wasn't it? And pole. So, how many did we win in the end then?
It was 9.
9.
Yeah,
9 race
13
wins.
podiums.
Yeah.
Out of 14 races.
Yeah.
That is massively impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, the one race where you're not off the podium sucks, doesn't it? But everything else is pretty awesome. So, yeah, like we'd be disappointed with the third last year, really, wouldn't we? And this year, sorry, which is a pretty incredible thing, really. So, and it has been such a competitive class. There's not been so many cars in it. We've had sort of 5, 6, 7 cars, but the caliber across each car was really, really strong. And actually everybody, there was 4 different race winners in the end, but actually there really should have been 5, because 89 deserved to win 2 races and didn't. So it shows you that across those 5 cars in the year that were sort of there, everybody won a race.
Yeah,
and that shows you competitivity of it. Like, I don't think there'd be many championships where every car that's competing in all the rounds has won a race of the championship, and that shows you just how competitive Clio class was this year. So to have those results in and around that is pretty bloody amazing, to be honest.
Absolutely. The series itself as a whole, I mean, the Clio class, to me, looking at the championship results and everything that year, is obviously the most competitive part of that, because it's effectively the one make series within a multi-make championship. And I'm looking forward to see what happens next year with the recent Britcar announcement. Obviously, Max, you'll still have very much a vested interest in that with the Hyro Motorsport team, but you touched on it, Max. You've got so many competitive drivers in those cars that are not separated by anything. They're sealed one-make cars, so it's the little increments that you guys have made all season. So to only have 1 or 2 results where you're not on the podium is an astonishing effort. Just out of, not wanting to sort of put a downer on anything, but what happened at the races where you didn't get the podiums? What was it that influenced it?
I think, to be honest, the race we didn't get on the podium, that whole weekend we was the most underprepared out of the whole grid. Just by sheer, I just say it's just unlucky that we wasn't able to test at that circuit. So Brands Hatch GP never really opens throughout the year.
No, it doesn't, does it?
So there's only a handful of days that you can get your hands on. We was tight on budget already anyway, and we just didn't get onto the test day, because once they put them out. Everyone wants to do a track day at Brands Hatch GP, and I think Drag Sport was able to do one, and it was just too fully booked by the time we wanted to do it. So if anything, I hadn't driven that track in 2 years. I didn't do it in BAC. It wasn't on the calendar. Hadley had never been there before.
Never driven it, had he?
Yeah,
never done the GP before.
No.
In all fairness, that was our most underprepared track, and that's just what came out in the race. I think that's the one of the few tracks that I didn't get pole position. That was the first time we learnt the track as well. I had 15 minutes to go out there in qualifying, and just go for it. Same with Hadley, and for it to still get like second place was good. In the races, it was just tight, and we just came out. I think it showed as well in both of our paces a little bit that they had done a test day before, and we was learning in our races as we was driving. With that car and track pairing, and it was just a bit unfortunate. I think it was a bit of contact. And we ended up coming off a little bit worse than when Hadley was driving, but we still came back. It was like, you know what, right, we know what we need to do. We came back in race 2 and we won it. So,
Maurice,
it was a testament to say like how.
Maurice, it was awesome we didn't get the podium. Brands, we did.
Nah, I thought we got 4th at Brands.
No, we got 3rd.
Yeah, we had a double podium there.
So what happened at Alton Park then?
I'll let Hadley take that one.
Yeah, so we got
balls to bring it up.
we got a pit stop penalty. When we're saying a pit stop penalty, it was like, I think it was less than a second or something. Like we were really pushing it.
Less than a tenth of a second under.
Yeah, we didn't quite have the pace in the wet to what we did in the dry. Alton in the dry we were flying, but in the wet we struggled, and we got a pit stop penalty, and I found myself pushing really hard, thinking that I could still get a podium, and chucked us off into the gravel. We did get going again, but it was a bit of a adding salt to the wound moment. We bounced back really well. We got all our heads back together, and that was like the experience Max had, which allowed us to both just get back into the headspace we needed. And come race 2, we were absolutely gone, weren't we, into the sunset? So we had a tough one, but it was just one of them, wasn't it? It was trying to find when you've got that close of a grid and that close of pace, that 0.1 second in the pit lane, if that was 0.1 second over, would have gone out in first place and probably won the race. So it's just that tight, that competitive, that 0.1 second can make such a difference.
Fine margins. Yeah, like I said earlier, fine margins.
That was my bad, really. I sent the lads early. I think we had a little bit of a stopwatch malfunction between ourselves, didn't we? And I like when it happened, I was like, I think we're under, and it was we were less than a tenth under. So we had a second stop go penalty. Hadley then went back out and had something like a 15-second gap to try and close, and I'd come on the radio and said, just go for it, push it, and it's a bit too much, and a little off, but we recovered, still finished 4th in that race, which was good, and then bounced back to a win later on. So if that's your worst point of the season, it's not been a bad year, has it?
No, definitely not. I want to play devil's advocate here. We did speak off of the podcast before we came on, and we sort of talk about what we're going to talk about. And when I said, well, obviously we'll have a chat about what's going on into next year. So you're going into next year as champions, Maurice and Hadley, but you didn't really want to tell me anything. So you've obviously got to keep your cards pretty close to your chest. But what in the ideal world, if everything comes together, what does 2025 look like for you both?
So do you want me to go first? Go on, Maurice. Go on.
All right. Well, for me personally, whatever step I want I want it to be a beneficial step in my career. It's all about doing a strategical move each time you go on through your career. Just with naturally, as you want to move up, you move up into something even bigger. And with going up even bigger means even more costs. And for me, I want to continue in the endurance style of racing and go up in that ladder. That's me personally, but it's easier said than done, especially when I rely now fully on sponsorship. It's about just working hard now over this winter, getting my head down, regrouping with my amazing partners that I already have on board, and then I'll have something to go off. But right now, it's kind of too early for me to put pen to paper to anything really, because there's still a lot of hard work need to be done behind the scenes, which I think a lot of people don't even realize. Like Max put so much effort in, not just with our team, but his own racing to even get himself going out racing. And I think that's why each year, when you come to an end of the year, you see him so emotional last year. It's those things like that really, really get to you, because it's like you've done this year now, you've made it to be able to do this year. And then the next year now it's like, right, fresh, clean slate again. I don't even think about the championship now. I'm like full steam, like trying to get what I need and the facilities to do what I need to do, and hopefully try and get into some sort of championship next year. So I would like to stay in the endurance style of racing or move up into something bigger, faster, more GT style of racing. But it's all easier said than done, isn't it, at the end of the day in motorsport?
No, I get that 100%.
Sorry, go on, Rob.
Yeah, I get that 100%. In any racing driver's career, I guess 99% of it is working behind the scenes, working on your fitness and networking, finding sponsorship, attending events to network and bits like that. 1% is physically sat in your race suit with a steering wheel in your hand.
Yeah,
the driving bit's very minimal in comparison to the rest of it. So I mean, I don't want to speak out of term here, Maurice. So we can always delete this bit if you don't want it in. But I think your aim is to try and go towards something like British GT really next year, isn't it? That's sort of the goal and the focus. If the right opportunity came along for you.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a natural step for me. I would love to race in such a championship like British GT. There's other championships out there as well. That's one that's on my radar right now. And that's one thing that over this winter, I'm going to have to work really hard on to make that reality at the moment.
I'll keep fingers and toes crossed for you, honestly. We've I think we all will. Max will attest to it. I'm a teddy bear at heart, and I love bringing the feel-good factor. So seeing the success that you guys have brought this year as well to High Road Motorsport for Max and for yourselves, worthy champions. I really hope that in a few years' time we're seeing you in some great international series, whatever you want to do. Hadley, you're very quiet down there. Come on.
So obviously I've been very fortunate with Simon Griffiths and Innovation Racing for this weekend, giving me opportunity in GT Cup. Amazing opportunity, amazing deal. To get me some experience, because like Maurice was saying, he's got a lot of experience in touring cars and previous cars, whereas I'm still, on the ladder, I guess. So I'm still trying to find my feet. There's still a lot of developing to do. So I wouldn't want to put myself in such a big championship like British GT, where you're in the headlight and stuff. I think I'd like to say I'm quite humble enough to realise that there's still a bit for me to go. There's still more for me to learn. So this GT Cup will be a really good step. Obviously, my amazing sponsors, Hallam Express, Crossroads, Parks Motor Group, and Sun Musk, they've been amazing this year. The networking that they've given me, not only the sponsorship and just the support, it's been fantastic. And hopefully to carry that on to 2025 with some new partners should bring quite an interesting championship, quite an interesting car, and hopefully put me right back up at the front again.
Look forward to it. And Max, more of the same with the Clios next year, or you fancy something a bit fruitier? I've seen some Janetta stuff going on in your stories over this year.
Yeah, well, I was at Spa last week with the Ginetta GTA. So the plan at the moment is that we'd like to return to Britcar. We are 99% sure we'll return with a Ginetta GTA car next year for 2 drivers. We still have the Clios and would look to run them again, supporting the Ginetta and with another program. I think we had a great year this season with the Clios, and I do wonder whether the caliber of driver that we had in the Clio is, testament to these 2 lads and Thomas, James, and Dragon Sport crew. Really that fielded some fantastic drivers, and I don't know whether we'll have quite the same level of experience and pace across the grid in the Clios next year. So we will see. We're going to start testing a few drivers in the Clios over the winter with a view to next year, and hopefully we'll do something with the Ginetta as well in the Ginetta GTA Championship. But yeah, we've got some pretty big plans outside of Britcar with the team. So can't really. Well, to be honest, they're not formulated yet, so I don't want to talk about them until I know what the plan is. We've got some pretty big plans. Naturally, I'm sat here with 2 champions as a team owner that's won a championship, and I'd be foolish to not want to include these 2 in my plans. So we're actively talking to both Hadley and Maurice about what their next steps are, and hoping that we can support them into that as Hyro Motorsport for hopefully next year, and hopefully we can grow together as a team and drivers into whatever it is. Our ambition is that we want to be in endurance racing. As a team, I'd like to do British GT. I'd love to go and do the Creventic stuff in Europe, Dubai, and so on and so forth. So, watch this space. There's a lot going on, and there might be a bit more to Hyro Motorsport than Britcar on its own next year.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops, especially over the winter. If only you had some sort of media outlet that you're a part of that you could perhaps share the news to later in the year.
Yeah,
we'll get back to that.
I look forward to it. So yeah, there's a lot going on. For me, the team is sort of, it ebbs and flows in where it sits. So when I'm racing away on my race weekends, then it's very much in the back of my mind. And these lads won't mind me saying that. But when it's at the forefront of my mind and what we're doing, to be honest, when I'm not at the track for those 3 or 4 days, then it is kind of our main focus. So. There's a lot to be done over the winter. We have got drivers to sort, cars to sort, workshops to sort, trucks to sort, staff to sort, funding to sort, dates to sort, staff to sort. So much goes into running a team. It is a massive operation, so there's a lot of things still to get right, but the foundations of the saying of where there's a will, there's a way. The will is there, and
you're working on the way.
Way is not quite sorted yet, but yeah, we'll get there.
Absolutely. Quick question, Max: have you dried out from Silverstone yet?
I've been just hoping everything rains again. So Silverstone was rather epic for me, and long may that continue. But it was a bit bloody wet, wasn't it? I mean, we were fortunate in that we got out just before the massive downpour in the touring cars, so we sort of escaped it.
Yeah, literally by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, so me and Dad went to Spa that night. So we got to Spa at 5 a.m. Monday morning, did a track day Monday, Tuesday. I was at Brands on the Wednesday, Croft on Thursday, Alton Park Friday last week. So last week was a bit busy. And then, so hence why this week's chilled. But
I'm not
as
surprised.
We were leaving, so here's a funny story. So we were leaving, right? Dad's parking the RV up in BRDC campsite, and it was so wet. I was like, I'm not getting out before 10-hour drive or 8-hour drive, whatever it is, to Spa. I was like, I'm not getting soaked before we go. So he was trying to like park the RV up, like reverse parallel park it into this bay in the BRDC campsite, which is. But these two lads are seeing me and my dad having our
Disagreements.
reversing discussions. Let's call it that. So disagreements. So it's not the easiest at the best of the time, and we can both hear each other. So I'm on the phone, Dad's on the phone, like we're not getting out. So he's trying to like do it with the Sprinter van. So it's like going one side of him, checking out where he was. I was basically communicating via indicator of like left hand down, right hand down, trying to get this RV parked up at the campsite before we went to Spa. So so that was Sunday night as we left, and that's why everything's still dry now. But yeah, it's a bit of a challenging week last week.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be fair, it was lucky enough I managed to get back in time to come to basically watch you race live on ITV, because I was meant to be at Donington Park and finishing at 6:00 for the BRSCC live stream, but they did 3 or 4 qualifying sessions, all finished under the red flag.
Didn't it?
Yeah, and the stewards cancelled the meeting by 11:30 on Sunday morning. So I did all the pre-records, did a load of interviews ready to show on the lunch break for that live stream that Sunday, and I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up driving home from Donington halfway through Sunday, and I managed to catch that last race. And when I saw you head off into the lead, I thought, yes, he's got it.
Yeah.
So what happened? Was it down to the tyres, the conditions? What? Because the other cars could catch and pass so easily. Were they just on a better tyre?
Yeah, actually, one of the really nice things of having the team this year, just to mention it, is that I obviously support these lads when they're at the track and they're racing, but they've also been really supporting me, and everybody was right behind it. So when I got back in, the team WhatsApp chat had gone mental by the time I'd got to the van and sort of seeing what was going on. So so that was really, really cool. They're all like, what tyres were you on? What did you do? But basically, we had the weather radar on the grid, and Chris said it's going to rain, so go with wets. And what we didn't really realise at the time is I was like, just copy whatever Seb does. He's our championship, title threat. Whatever he does, we do, and it's my job then to, try and do a better job than he does. What I didn't know is Parker were going to go the opposite of whatever we did. So it was never going to work. We were always going to go on a mismatch. And I went out on the wet thinking, I think we might have made a mistake here. So fortunately, I don't think it was really a wrong decision. I just think, by the end of it, the wet and the dry tyre was about the same pace.
Mm-hmm.
The slick was probably slightly better. We went out on a new wet. I kind of wish we'd gone on an old wet. It would have been
probably a bit better.
$2,000 cheaper, and B, wouldn't have the peak of the tyre wouldn't have been in those first 2 laps and got off. So yeah, it's a pretty expensive decision, but that was my problem. So first 2 laps I was switched on and gone and up the road, but I was all the while sort of thinking these tyres are going to be knackered in not very long if it doesn't start raining. And I think when the rain came, my tyres had got so hot, I just couldn't cool them, so they just got worse and worse and worse. Where the slick, obviously, they struggled to get the grip, but once they had it, they sort of had it unless it absolutely bounced down. So yeah, it was just a really weird tyre choice race, but sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah, I think at some points during the weekend you were possibly going to have to put on your rubber armbands to make it through a race, but hey ho.
Race 2 was definitely the highlight. I think race 2 was our best race. I dropped back to 5th, came back through to lead it out at the last corner and not quite make it to the line. So I've got that to watch yet, and I'm really looking forward to doing so before we go to Brands this weekend. So I mean, to finish, Rob, I think I'd like to ask these 2 lads their favourite race of this season.
Perfect.
Before we wrap up, and then we can rock on with some exciting things this weekend. Yeah,
well, take it away then, boys. So Maurice, Hadley, I want your favourite race from this year. Only one. I don't want none of this. Well, okay, this weekend was good. I just want one moment where it was so perfect. You just sat in the car and thought, yeah, this is good. This is the best feeling ever.
I've got it.
Go on then.
Silverstone qualifying.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Silverstone qualifying, it was like...
What,
It
wet?
was wet. Yeah, we were on wets, and it was like, it was not fast enough for Derez's, but it was the perfect,
Yeah.
just before the crossover, and I went out, and it was just like, everything was just underneath me, and it just felt so good.
Yeah,
Like,
you were up the road when you came in on times, weren't you? And I think
Yeah.
it was only Maurice's final flying lap on one lap from the whole of the Dragon Sport team on Derez's
Yeah.
that was quicker than your lap on the wet. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could see why you'd pick that as a moment for the year. While Maurice answers, think of your favourite race.
All right. Okay.
I'd have to say that my favourite race was the last race at Donington, where I think it was race 2. Yeah, it was race 2 because I finished the race. So there was a safety car and all of that, and we managed to make a good call as a team to pit at the right time, which meant that we came out at the back of everyone because it was all bunched up together, but also meant that because there's a safety car, we didn't then lose 15 seconds. So, we was right at the back of all the Clios, and I had a job to do to carve through it. I think it was quite fun as well. Like, it was one of my most enjoyable races because most of the times, it starts off really well and then it spreads out. And it spreads out into your little 2 groups or whatever. But this time I was given the job, to just come through from the back to the front, and it was nice to just come through and make some overtakes, and that, I just really just enjoyed that race, And Max left me to it on the comms, and I was just managed to go from the back to bring home like the victory, which was nice. That was one I just really enjoyed because it's probably like the most like position gains I've done all year. Most of the times it's I start and then do some battling and then hand over to Hadley, and Hadley does some more battling, and then we come out on top, and then it flips around because obviously Hadley starts the second race, or whoever basically starts the first race does the last stint in the second race. So it's Hadley does a good job and puts us in a good position, and that time it was like, right, we've got to like literally do it all from the back, and I just really enjoyed that coming through.
So you're saying your favourite race of the year is where I didn't talk to you?
Yeah, basically. I think to be fair, the image I had from that was you're all sat looking at the computer screens and could just see him climbing the sort of laps, and you just went, you know what, he's got it. Flip the mic out of the way and just started sipping on your Yorkshire tea. Done.
I think everyone would argue though that I love the radio better than me. I was always on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maurice loves the radio.
He's the radio king.
Yeah, no, I'd like straight away always on the button, mid corner, everywhere. Yeah, I love radio button me. But no, I just really enjoyed it. It was just a fun race, and just it was just a nice thing to be able to just like, come out on top of, really. Like, we had that penalty, put us right at the back. Because also didn't work in our favour as well, because sometimes with the penalty you can still come out like second, third, but this put us right back to like right at the back.
We negated the 15 seconds, but we were basically put to the back of the grid. So
yeah, because of the safety car as well, so everyone was close together, so it put us right to the back, and then to do that was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, Hadley. Have you got a race for us? Come on.
Yeah. I can't remember which race it was. I think someone might have to help me. It was Silverstone. And me and Sam Nessa, Thomas Jack Lee just had that almighty battle.
Yeah.
And it came down to the last lap and my tyres were overheated.
Was that race 1?
Yeah.
Race 1. So my tyres started overheating and it comes on to the last lap and Sam Nessa's right up my chuffer. And we just had this almighty battle, just pushing each other right up against the wall. Just doing everything we could, throwing all the tricks, because we raced each other on the simulator, so we pushed each other over the edge there, and we thought we were going to do it on track. But it was so much fun. We both just came out happy, came out the car and just said, wow, that was really good.
That was a pretty mega last lap, to be fair. It's good, good one. So for me, I'll just ping my two favourite stints, if you like, of your 2 seasons. So for me, Maurice's last stint in the last race at Snet was awesome. His pace was more than a second a lap faster than, to be honest, anybody else that day in a Clio. It was unreal. We had a huge gap. Basically, Hadley got taken out at the start through absolutely no fault of his own. 2 cars, a bit of his unluck from Fiestas came back. There's a crash, and it just crashed straight in front of him. So he stopped and stalled because he just couldn't do anything else. So we were on the back foot, and we also had the 15-second penalty in the pit lane. So while the success penalty. So while Hadley had sort of managed to negate that back down to like 6 seconds, we then lost like 15 again in the pits. We had a good pit stop, gained a couple of seconds back. And I think Maurice pulled, he put basically a second a lap. And it was, I remember coming in, there's all sorts going on in the pit garage. And I was like, look, unless anybody's got anything that I need to do now, I need to go onto the pit wall, just speak to Maurice and get him through this next half hour, 20 minutes. I need to call him through every sector, and we just need to be lit. And every sector was like a couple of tenths out of Dragon Sport every time. And it was like, come on. We never caught them, but I think that stint was absolutely awesome from Maurice. It's super consistent.
I definitely did feel that as well.
So
I gave
fast.
that one like my everything. I gave that 100%. It was one of the ones where you put probably like that's when I felt like the championship. Because at that time we still don't know.
No, and we didn't know when we finished, did we?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like I don't know what the connotation is here, but by the time we've worked it out, we've lost 2 or 3 laps of chatting and getting on with it. So we just got to go as fast as we can and hope for the best. So for me, that would be Maurice's, and I think Hadley's would be either Brand's race 2 or Snet. The Snetton first round. I feel like the Snet first round, Hadley really came of age. I think he sort of probably for the first time realised how good he was, and was like I said, only really second to Maurice, and actually his pace over a lap was within 2 tenths, I think, in terms of fastest lap, and on average lap it was something like less than a tenth off Maurice's time. But key for me and a massive turning point for us in the season was that Hadley was faster than everybody else at Dragon Sport, and what it meant is that as a team manager and radio caller, I could call the car in whenever within the pit window and didn't have to think, I've got one guy who's pulling the other one along. They were both drivers on equal merit and equal measure, pushing together as one team. And I think it was as much us realising that as a team as it was Hadley realising that himself, and that was so nice to see. And I think also Brand's race 2, Hadley had a particularly difficult race 1, was stuck behind another car for a bit of time, ended up having a bit of contact, and we had a really sort of good coaching session in between those 2 races. Looked at how to overtake without causing contact, how to set a car up, and Hadley produced like the textbook overtake that we've been speaking about in the coaching session. Coming out the last corner at Brands.
Yeah, I think I've got to talk about this.
It was like, I felt as a coach and a driver, I'd like done a really good job. And I felt like Hadley had we had just like that click moment. I actually feel like from then on in, probably from Brands onwards, Hadley was there. And it took us those first 3 rounds to kind of get him into really having that confidence and that racecraft in the car. And from then on, he was on fire, really. So.
Yeah, so after race 1, I was stuck behind this guy who's like really tough defending, something I hadn't really seen in my karting days. Like playing tricks, like something that you can do. It's just unless you were really experienced, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
So in race 2, Max sat me down in front of this computer and we watched his mini Mini on board from his Mini JCW days. And he did this overtake at the last corner where someone went defensive. So he backed off and just drove into the gap on the inside. And then I found myself in the exact same position that Max was in, going into the last corner he was defending. So I went, right, I'll do a Max Coates. And I slowed down, just drove into the gap. And it was literally image to image, like exactly the same as the move. And I came onto the radio to Max and I said, I've just done the move that you taught me 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It was amazing, wasn't it? It was so good.
Yeah, it's like a proud dad, proud coach moment. So yeah, it was class. So
harking back to days of old in the Mini Challenge.
Season. Yeah.
Yeah,
we've had a mega season, and it's great to be able to share some highlights of it and chat about it with these guys, because we have had such a great year, and wherever we go as a team, wherever they go as drivers, we'll always have this year to look back on fondly, and following each other's successes. But hopefully we've got a lot more to come together.
Well, Maurice Henry and Hadley Simpson, remember those names. I think they're going to be coming up quite a lot in the next few years, especially in GT racing circles. And you never know. I think they'll be on the champions list once again. Let's certainly hope so. But guys, it's been great having you on the Driving Talk podcast. Max, we've spoken a bit about Brands Hatch, but let's save it until afterwards, because you go and get the job done, and we'll talk about what a great year it's been for yourself this year at a later date. Sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. I think we've got a podcast coming up for that, haven't we? So fingers crossed for everybody who's watching and supporting. Obviously, this is going to be going out Friday morning. So massive weekend for me. I really hope to see plenty of people at the track this weekend supporting me. I'm sure my phone will go berserk, and we'll have lots of messages on the socials and WhatsApp and whatnot. So wherever you're watching, at the track or on telly, I really appreciate everybody's support, and hopefully you will see the biggest smile and a flood of tears from me on Sunday at some point. So that's the plan.
That is definitely the plan. But this has been the Driving Talk podcast in association with Icon, powered by Icon, from Maurice, from Hadley, from Max Coates, and from myself, Robert Lewis. That's all for this episode. And tune in next time, where hopefully we'll have a great chat with Max Coates about winning a championship once again.
Hope so.
Bye-bye for now.
Everyone.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.